Hi guys, Alex Hamilton here, and today we're going to talk about tube screamers, specifically vintage versus reissue tube screamers. So here I have a reissue tube screamer, which actually looks more battered than the vintage one. I think someone's tried to relic it, but it cost me 30 quid on eBay, so I'm not complaining. And here we have an original 1981 808. So we're going to be talking about the differences between them. I'm going to pull them apart, and we're going to do some comparisons on the two, which some of you might find helpful if you're buying a vintage one, so you can find out if you're buying a real vintage one or someone trying to pass off a reissue as a vintage one. So once we've done that, we're going to hear a sound comparison between the two, and we're going to find out, is it really worth buying a vintage tube screamer? So here are the two tube screamers. This is the reissue, and this is the original one. So this reissue, like I said in the intro, I think has been aged. But it was a bargain on eBay, so I'm not really that bothered. So let's have a look at the kind of telltale signs so you can tell the difference between the two of them at a glance. Like if someone comes up on eBay for 50 quid and it looks a little bit suspiciously good to be true, like it's an old one, let's have a look at some ways you can identify them. And vice versa, if someone's selling an original 808 for 600 quid and it doesn't look quite right, there's a few telltale signs that you can use to make sure you're not getting ripped off. So the first one is on this reissue, and it's quite handy that it's aged so much, well, fake aged so much, because you can see there's a white primer underneath it. And I don't know if that's going to show up in the camera, but it goes green, and then it goes white, and then it goes metal. So that's your first giveaway. Oh, let me just fix the lens here. That's your first giveaway. And on the original, it goes green straight to metal. No primer. And the colours are slightly different as well. The original's not quite as a pale green colour, not quite as washed out. So let's flip them over, and on the back, I've taken the screws out already to make this a bit of a less painless and lengthy process. But if you take the battery door cover off, there is a difference in the doors here. So this one says Ibanez on it. I don't know if that's going to show up on the camera. So the reissue says Ibanez, and the original says Maxon on it. So that's a very important small detail that people often miss. And obviously, over time, these things lose battery doors and they get replaced. So it's not, it's not the only way to test, but that's something to look out for. If you're looking at one on eBay, message the person and say, can I see a photograph of the back door? Because if it says Maxon, you are probably on the right tracks to getting a vintage one. So the sticker is the biggest giveaway, but to be honest, half the time these things get pulled off. But the sticker, the first digit indicates the year up until 83, I believe. And all the information on that stuff is available on the Analog Man website, which is a great resource for that kind of thing. So opening up on the inside, they both have the same shielding protector to make sure nothing shorts on the circuit board. The circuit boards look pretty much the same from the back. The enclosure in here is painted green all the way on the inside. The enclosure here is just grey, unpainted enclosure. So the biggest giveaway here to final one is the colour of the circuit board, what it says on the circuit board, and the colour of the capacitors on the board. So this is the reissue, and it says Ibanez on it, and this is the vintage one, and it is a really dark brown colour. And it actually says Maxon on the top left corner. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. So it says Maxon on the top left corner because Maxon actually made the very first tube screamers. They invented the tube screamer, and then they were sold under the Ibanez brand name. So right up until the early 90s, it'll say Maxon on the board, and there are some reissue TS9s that say Maxon, and people get confused and think they're originals. They're not. There's ways to check by using the serial number. So the other giveaway is the resistors here. So we have carbon film resistors on the reissue, and they're just a standard cream carbon film kind of colour. On the vintage one, you have these bizarre green coloured carbon film resistors, and that is a massive telltale sign. So we've got colour of the box, the primer, the battery door, the serial number and the sticker on the back, the colour of the board, what it says on the board, i.e. Maxon or Ibanez, and then we've got the color of the resistors here. And there is another telltale sign to date these as well, is the electrolytic capacitors actually have the dates on them as well. So one of the letters here will start with a 1, and that will tell you it's a 1981. That's quite handy to know if the label's been pulled off the back. So enough of my yapping, let's get these bad boys plugged in and let's hear how they sound. I'm going to be running through my Super Reverb mic'd with an SE Ribbon mic and an AKG condenser in the room. Let's hear how they sound. So yeah, almost instantly, I noticed a very, very big difference between the two, which I was not expecting, to be honest. I've had countless reissue and vintage TS9s, and whenever I put them next to each other, there isn't a lot in it. I've had one vintage 808 which sounded amazing, but I've never compared it to a reissue, and this is the first time I've plugged a reissue and an original next to each other, and the difference is surprising me, to be honest. As far as the tone goes of the pedal, like the actual mid-hump and the coloration and the gain levels and stuff are very, very similar. Where the difference lies to me is the feel thing. I don't know if it comes across well in the video, but the original just has more sustain, more bloom in the notes, and just more like harmonic overtone content. Like when I was accidentally hitting pinch harmonics and they were kind of just jumping out of the guitar. And I tried to do it again with the reissue and they didn't really come out, and then hit back to the original and then like the thing just squealed basically. I suppose it is a tube screamer, so scream is the best word to describe it. But yeah, it's very interesting so far. So I'm going to plug them back in and twiddle some knobs and then see what the differences are like with different settings on them. I'm actually going to flip these round as well, because I just want to make sure that there's nothing to do with the buffers is actually making one sound better than the other. So I've swapped them around. Here we go. Yeah, that is a bizarre difference. I am very surprised by that. Unfortunately, I think the vintage one sounds loads better. Feel-wise, for me, it's just so nice to play, so responsive, and like the notes just kind of jump out of the guitar when you're playing it. But I suppose that doesn't really answer the question, are these vintage pedals worth the money? And I don't really have an answer to that question. I think it depends on a few things. I think it depends how far down the tonal rabbit hole you are wanting to go. And it depends on how deep your pockets are. Having done this comparison, there's no doubt in my mind that an old 808 sounds better than a reissue. But does it sound better than some of the hand-wired ones, or the Vemoram, you know, fancy Tube Screamer reissues? I don't know, because I've not tried that many of them. We need to do more comparisons to be sure. However, I do think these things are really cool. They're not made anymore, and they're definitely not going down in value. They just get more and more expensive every year. Even with the market crash that's going on at the moment, they're still listed on Reverb for like $1,000. So if you have a bit of spare cash and you really love guitars and you're into vintage stuff, I think buying vintage Tube Screamers is a very good idea. If you're just a gigging musician and you're not really bothered about these kind of things and you just want something that sounds like a Tube Screamer, reissue all the way, because it is 90% the way there. There isn't a noticeable difference. The audience aren't going to tell. You're probably not going to tell when you're playing at a gig. But yeah, interesting comparison. I hope you guys find this useful. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, because there's always more videos on the way. If you're interested in me and my band, I'll leave a link in the comments below. And if you're interested in buying this pedal, it's currently owned by my business, vibracaster.com. That's my day job where I buy and sell secondhand guitars. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.